The stars above Earth were calm. New Geneva, Earth's capital city, glowed gently in the night. Skyscrapers curved like glass spires, humming with clean energy. Skyways floated above parks, and people walked freely, smiling, peaceful. After centuries of war and collapse, Earth had finally found peace. Admiral Sarah Keene stood on a high balcony, looking up at the stars. Her uniform was sharp and dark, a single silver stripe across her shoulder marking her rank. Her eyes were steady, thoughtful. She had fought in the last border conflict 2 decades ago, and now served as Earth's top military leader. But she hadn't given an attack order in years, and she liked it that way. Her comm badge chirped, "Admiral. Incoming signal. Origin unknown." Her calm expression shifted slightly. "Unknown." The voice from command control answered, "Yes, ma'am, it just broke through outer relays. Extremely old tech. Weak transmission. But it's human." Keene turned. "Put it through." Inside Earth's Deep Space Command Center, lights dimmed. The room filled with quiet tension. Technicians leaned forward as the signal cracked through. Static filled the air. Then a voice, broken, desperate. "This is Novera Colony. Under attack. Cathari warships. We're being wiped out. Please, Earth, don't forget us." The voice cut out. Then again silence. The room stayed still. Even the screen seemed to pause. Keene stood in the center, her voice low. "Novera?" A young analyst nodded. "Confirmed. It's real. It came from the Perseus Rift, deep space outside all current human systems." Keene narrowed her eyes. That colony was lost over 150 years ago. No contact. No sign of survivors. "But someone's still there," the analyst said. "And they're calling for us." Later that night, Keene stood alone in her office. The lights were off. The message replayed softly in the background. "Please, don't forget us." She closed her eyes. Years ago she had commanded a fleet along the border during the Archon raids. She remembered the cries of help, the signals that came too late, the silence that followed. She promised herself she'd never ignore a call for help again. The next morning, the Terran High Council gathered in the Senate Dome. Leaders from across Earth, the moon colonies, Mars and Europa sat in quiet rows, listening as Keene stood before them. "The Cathari Dominion has attacked a human world," she said clearly. "Novera, a colony we thought lost. There are survivors. They're under siege." One counselor leaned forward. "Admiral, if we engage we risk violating the Treaty of Velian. Earth has remained neutral for 2 centuries. Another added, "The galaxy may see this as aggression." Keene held her ground. "Then let them." Gasps filled the chamber. She continued, "We built peace with silence. But if that peace means letting our people die alone, then it is not peace, it is shame." She paused, looking each counselor in the eye. "We didn't forget them. We heard their cry. And now, we answer." Elsewhere in the galaxy, in the cold black near the Perseus Rift, ships moved like shadows. The Cathari Dominion had surrounded Novera. The planet burned in places. Human outposts were shattered. Refugees hid in tunnels beneath the soil, praying someone would hear them. On the bridge of a massive Cathari warship, High Executor Tharvax stood tall. His scaled skin shimmered like metal. His eyes were cold and bright. A lower officer approached. "Sir, we intercepted an old human signal, a distress call." Tharvax smiled. "Let them scream. No one is coming." But back on Earth, in a hidden drydock beneath the Martian surface, lights flickered to life. Engines groaned. Steel hulls hummed. A fleet, silent for 200 years, was waking. Admiral Sarah Keene stood at the edge of the dock, watching as the first ship, the ESS Gallant, powered up. Her eyes reflected the blue light of its engines. She spoke softly, but her voice was full of purpose. "We left them behind once." She clenched her fist. "Not again." The Terran High Council chamber was quiet. The curved glass dome overhead showed a perfect view of the stars. Earth's leaders sat around a wide, glowing table, each wearing sleek robes of blue, silver, or white. They were scientists, engineers, diplomats, people who had built peace after war. But now that peace was cracking. Admiral Sarah Keene stood at the center, hands behind her back. A large screen behind her showed a still image. Novera colony. Fires burned across parts of the planet. Kithuri warships hovered above it like vultures. "Counselors," she began, her voice calm but firm. "Novera is real. It's still there. And it's under siege." One counselor, an older woman from Europa, leaned forward. "We haven't had contact with that colony in over 150 years. Why risk everything now?" Keene looked her in the eye. "Because they're human. They called for help. We have the strength to answer." Counselor Baron, a tall man from Mars, frowned. "If we break the Treaty of Valian, the Galactic Concord will retaliate. Earth could be isolated, or worse." Another added, "We kept peace by staying silent. That silence kept us alive." Keene's voice grew sharper. "That silence cost lives. I remember the Archon border crisis. I watched colonies fall while we waited for permission to respond. We chose silence then. I won't choose it again." Outside the chamber, news of the Novera signal spread fast. In New Geneva, people gathered around public screens. The message replayed over and over. "Please, don't forget us." Citizens stood still. Some cried. Others looked confused. At a cafe, a young man whispered, "Is it real?" An older man beside him nodded. "That was my grandfather's colony. We thought they were all gone." On the military network, veterans began reporting in, ready to serve if called. "You give the word, we suit up." Across Mars, engineers reopened sealed factories. Mechanics cleaned dust off long idle assembly lines. Weapons labs, once used only for research, began waking up. Back in her quarters, Keene stared at a photo on her wall. It showed her with her old squad from the Archon conflict. Most were gone now. A soft knock. Lieutenant Vale entered, carrying a datapad. "Fleet readiness reports are coming in," he said. "If approved, we could have 20 ships operational in 3 weeks, 50 in 2 months." Keene nodded slowly. "Good, but we may not have 2 months." She took the datapad and tapped through the reports. "So many willing to fight," she said quietly. Vale looked at her. "Is that what this is? War?" Keene didn't answer right away. "It's a response," she said. "Not to show power, but to show we care." The next morning, the council held its final vote. Keene stood as each counselor cast their decision. Green for yes, red for no. The final tally glowed across the dome. 16 PSI yes, 4 no. The chamber was silent. Then Counselor Darren stood. "Admiral Keene," he said, "you have permission to mobilize. Earth will respond." Keene nodded once, her jaw tight. "Thank you. I won't fail them." At Earth Defense Headquarters, the orders were sent. Across the system, old warships were activated. Dry docks opened. Factories roared. Engineers raced to prepare the fleet. The Earth Starfleet hadn't moved in 2 centuries. Now, it stirred. The ESS Gallant was the first ship to fully power up. Its engines glowed bright blue. Its hull shimmered with fresh armor. And its crew, veterans and new recruits alike, stood ready. Steen walked through the Gallant's hangar bay. Soldiers saluted. Mechanics nodded. Pilots checked their ships. She stopped and looked at the main banner above the command deck. It read, "For every voice that calls." She smiled. On the far side of the galaxy, deep within Cathari space, Tharvax received word. A scout entered his chamber, bowing low. "Executor, Earth is mobilizing. They're sending a fleet." Tharvax grinned, his teeth sharp. "Let them come. Their peace has made them soft." He looked out the window of his ship, toward the stars. "They will fall as easily as their colony." But Tharvax didn't know Earth's secret. This wasn't a war for power. It was a war for people. And Earth was ready to fight for every one of them. The Martian sky was red and still. Then it trembled. From deep beneath the surface, massive hangars opened for the first time in 2 centuries. Engines roared to life. Metal platforms rose from the ground like ancient giants waking from sleep. Inside Dock Alpha, the ESS Gallant stood tall, over a kilometer-long dark silver armor polished, glowing with fresh power. Around it, technicians, engineers, and soldiers moved like clockwork. Lights blinked across hundreds of systems. Admiral Sarah Keene stood on the command platform above it all, watching. "Status?" she asked. Lieutenant Vale responded beside her. "Power core stable. AI control systems synced. Weapon banks locked and ready. We're 2 days ahead of schedule." Keene nodded. "Good. Keep pushing. This isn't just a fleet. It's a promise." Across Earth and its colonies, the call went out. Mobilization order Class Omega. All active and reserve personnel report. Immediately veterans packed their gear and returned to stations. Young recruits lined up outside enlistment centers, eyes sharp, voices firm. Families hugged, cried, and stood tall. One mother in New Geneva kissed her son goodbye. "You don't have to do this," she whispered. He smiled gently. "They need us, Mom. They called for help. How can I stay?" She held his hand, then let him go. In orbit, older ships once left in stasis were reactivated. The ESS Valiant, ESS Horizon, and ESS Sentinel, each one built for defense, not conquest, began system checks and weapon calibration. Crews cleaned off dust from command chairs. AI cores reconnected with new data. Warships formed into fleets, ready to launch. In the central war room beneath New Geneva, Keene addressed her command staff. A large 3D star map of the galaxy spun slowly. The Perseus Rift pulsed red, Novera's location. "Our primary objective is clear," she said. "Secure Novera. Rescue survivors. Defend the planet." A young officer raised his hand. "And if the Cathari fleet resists?" Keene looked at him. Her voice was steady. "Then we fight." She walked around the table, her tone sharp. "This is not a war for territory. We are not here to claim worlds. We're here because someone called out to us, and we answered." In the Gallant's hangar, fighter pilots ran drills. Troop carriers were loaded. Medical bays were stocked. Engineers worked day and night to ensure every ship could make the long jump to the rift. Commander Mira Eston, leader of the Gallant's strike wing, looked over her squad. "These Cathari think we're soft," she said. "They've never seen humans when we fight for our own." On the outer rim, mining ships were converted into supply vessels. Civilian scientists volunteered to assist with planetary scans and rescue ops. Even farmers sent food shipments for the mission. Earth was no longer just preparing. It was rising. Keene stood on the bridge of the Gallant, her command seat waiting. She didn't sit yet. Instead, she looked around at her crew. Every face showed focus, some nervous, some angry, but all ready. "Today," she said, over the comms, "we return to the stars, not as conquerors, but as protectors. We stand not for pride, but for the people who thought we had forgotten them." She paused, then said clearly, "We remember." Outside, the fleet aligned. Dozens of ships, thousands of lives, all aimed toward one point in space. The order came through. "Engage jump drives. Set destination, Novera." The stars began to stretch. Light bent, time pulled, and then with a flash, the Earth star fleet vanished into the dark. Far across the galaxy, on Novera, the sky burned orange. Cities crumbled. Smoke covered the land. Small groups of survivors huddled in caves and ruins, listening to the silence. One child sat with her father, their radio dead for days. "Is anyone coming?" she asked. The man didn't answer, but then far above, a tier of blue light split the sky. Ships, sleek, silver, and marked with Earth's emblem, emerged from hyperspace, and with them, hope. The planet Novara burned. Black smoke rose from shattered cities. Towers that once stood tall were now rubble. Cathari ships circled in the sky like metal beasts, firing on anything that moved. The people of Novara hid underground, hungry and scared. Their signal had gone silent days ago. But they still hoped. Then the sky changed. With a deep blue flash, dozens of Earth Starfleet ships appeared in orbit. The ESS Gallant led the charge, followed by the Valiant, Sentinel, and Horizon. Their engines roared, lights glowing like stars brought to life. On the Gallant's bridge, Admiral Keen stood tall, full scan. Enemy fleet count, 22 Kethari warships, said Lieutenant Vale. 9 above Novara, 13 holding in high orbit. Shields up, weapons hot. Keen nodded. We hit fast. Strike where they're weakest. Let's show them who we are. The first battle began seconds later. Earth's fighters launched in waves, small, fast, and deadly. They cut through Kethari patrol ships with precision strikes. Pulse cannons tore into enemy hulls. Drone swarms disabled engines. Explosions lit the sky. Commander Eston led the first attack wing. Keep tight formation. Don't let them scatter. Her squad danced through enemy fire, weaving between blasts. One Kethari ship turned to flee too late. The ESS Horizon hit it with a rail cannon shot that ripped it apart. On the ground, the people of Novara looked up through cracks in the rubble. One man, covered in ash, whispered. They came. A little girl clutched her mother's hand. Are they here for us? Her mother cried as she nodded. They heard us. In orbit, Keen's fleet pushed harder. The ESS Gallant faced the Kethari command ship, a massive dark vessel with sharp, curved armor. Tharvax's second-in-command, Warlord Kren, stood on its bridge, sneering. Humans have spirit, Kren said, but they are weak. Burn them. Kethari ships moved to surround the Gallant. Keen remained calm. They want to encircle us. Give them a reason to think we're panicking. She tapped the command pad. Activate Echo Maneuver. 3 Earth ships turned and appeared to retreat, drawing enemy fire. Then from the planet's shadow, 5 hidden Earth ships emerged, hitting the Kethari flank with heavy torpedoes. 3 enemy ships went dark. The trap had worked. Meanwhile, drop ships launched toward the surface. Troop carriers flew low through smoke and fire. Medical units followed, landing near refugee zones. Soldiers spread out, securing buildings and helping civilians escape. One rescue team found a group of survivors in a collapsed shelter. Their eyes were wide with disbelief. Are you real? One boy asked. The soldier knelt. We're from Earth. You called, we came. Hours passed. Explosions echoed across the sky. More Kethari ships fell. Earth lost 2 smaller frigates, but the fleet held strong. They were faster, smarter, and more precise. Inside the Gallant, Keen spoke to the crew. You've made history today, she said. But we're not done yet. She pointed to the command display. One large red mark remained. Tharvax's dreadnought, waiting beyond Novara's orbit. He hasn't entered the fight, Vale said. He's watching, Keen replied. Waiting for us to get tired. She stepped forward, eyes sharp. Send him a message. We're just getting started. Tharvax received the report. His top ships were gone. His ground forces were retreating. Earth had struck fast, hard and without fear. He laughed, cold and sharp. So, they've changed. His aide asked, do we engage? Tharvax stood. No. We crush them in one blow. He turned to his crew. Prepare the flagship. We end this. Back on Novara, the final transport ship landed. A girl no older than 7 stepped out. Her hair was dusty, her face tired. She looked up at the Earth soldiers. Are you going to leave us again? A medic knelt, smiling gently. Not this time. Above, the stars shifted. Tharvax's flagship moved forward. The final battle was near. The sky above Novara turned dark. Tharvax's flagship entered orbit. It was massive, twice the size of the ESS Gallant. Its hull was black and curved, like the spine of a beast. Red lights pulsed across its surface. Weapon systems unfolded along its sides. On the bridge of the Gallant, alarms flared. Flagship approaching, Vel said. It's armed to the teeth. Admiral Keen stood without blinking. We knew he'd come. He's challenging us, Eston said. He wants a final fight. Keen nodded. Then let's give him one. The fleet shifted into battle formation. Earth ships pulled back, forming a defensive wall between Novara and Tharvax's dreadnought. The Gallant moved to the front, its cannons charged and ready. Keen opened the comms. "This is Admiral Keen of the Earth Starfleet. You are attacking a human colony. You will stand down." Tharvax appeared on the screen, his eyes glowing red. "You're brave, Admiral, but foolish. This colony is mine now, and you will die protecting it." Keen stared at him. "We don't protect land, we protect people." She cut the feed. "Fire all forward weapons." The final battle began. The Gallant's cannons lit up the sky. Rail slugs smashed into the dreadnought's shield, sending ripples across its hull. The Kethuri ship responded with heavy plasma beams, carving through space. One Earth frigate exploded, its crew lost. Keen stood steady. "Move the Gallant closer, draw their focus." "But they'll target us," Vel warned. "I want them to," Keen replied. Meanwhile, Keen's elite strike team prepared. Their mission was dangerous: board the dreadnought and disable its core systems. It was the only way to stop Tharvax's massive ship before it destroyed Novara. Keen suited up herself. "Admiral, you can't lead the boarding," Eston said. "You're too important." Keen clipped her sidearm into place. "That's why I'm going. If this ends badly, the last thing he sees should be the one who told him no." The dropship launched from the Gallant, flying through enemy fire. Inside, Keen's team sat in silence, weapons loaded, eyes forward. Everyone knew what was at stake. They reached the dreadnought's underside, clamped to the hull, and cut through. Inside, the hulls were dark and pulsing red. The team moved fast, clearing rooms and disabling defenses. Kethuri soldiers rushed to intercept. The fight was brutal, quick and close. Team took down 2 attackers with sharp, practiced shots. "Core chamber ahead," Vel called. The doors opened, and Tharvax stood waiting. He was taller than they'd seen on screen. His armor glowed with heat, his claws ready. "You came to die in person?" he asked. "No," Keen said. "I came to end this." Tharvax charged. He moved fast for his size, slashing with strength. Keen dodged, firing point blank into his shoulder. He roared, grabbed her, and threw her across the room. She hit the wall hard but stood quickly. Svel and the others fired at Tharvax, trying to weaken him. His armor deflected most shots, but they distracted him long enough for Keen to get behind him. She pulled a fusion blade from her belt, short, sharp, and glowing. She leapt onto his back and drove it deep into his neck joint. Tharvax howled in rage. He spun and fell, crashing onto the metal floor. Keen stood over him, breathing hard. Tharvax coughed, bleeding. "You are only human." She stared down at him. "That's enough." His team rushed to the core systems. Vel hacked the control panel and disabled the dreadnought's weapons and shields. On the Gallant, the crew watched as Tharvax's ship powered down. "Enemy flagship is disabled," Eston said. "They've lost control." Across the sky, Kethuri ships scattered. The battle was over. Back aboard the Gallant, Keen sat in the medbay, bruised and bandaged. Eston walked in, holding a datapad. "Tharvax's fleet is retreating. Novara is free." Keen closed her eyes, finally letting herself breathe. "We did it," Eston said softly. Keen opened her eyes. "No, they did it." She looked toward the window, where Novara slowly turned in the black of space. "They called. We answered. That's what matters." Down on the planet, survivors emerged into the light. Children pointed at the sky. Soldiers walked among them, helping, protecting. One man looked up at the Earth fleet and whispered, "We thought we were forgotten." A woman beside him said, smiling, "Not anymore." The fires on Novara had gone out. Ashes still covered parts of the land, but the sky was clear. Earth ships floated above like silent guardians. The sound of gunfire was gone. In its place came voices soft, grateful, and full of life. Admiral Sarah Keen stood on the surface, boots planted firmly in the dirt. She looked over the rebuilding camps. Earth medics treated the wounded. Engineers restored power to shelters. Children played near supply crates. Survivors once hiding in fear now walked freely beneath the open sky. She closed her eyes for a moment. The silence felt good. The Terran High Council sent a message. Mission successful. Civilian rescue complete. Planetary defense systems will remain active. Novara will be rebuilt, with our help. Across Earth and its colonies, people celebrated. Screens showed footage of the rescue. Headlines read, "They called and we came." Earth returns not as a superpower but as a shield. Families of the fleet cried tears of relief. The names of the fallen were read aloud in every major city. Monuments were planned in New Geneva, Mars, and now Novara. Inside a temporary command tent on the planet, Keen sat with Vale and Commander Eston. A simple meal lay between them. Ration packs and hot tea. Vale looked at Keen. Still no regrets. She shook her head. None. Eston smiled. You've changed everything, you know. The galaxy will never see us the same again. Keen sipped her tea. Let them look. We didn't rise for power. We rose for a cry. Later that day, a ceremony took place. On a wide hill above the remains of Novara's capital, soldiers, medics, and citizens gathered. A tall metal post was driven into the ground. At its top flew a new flag. Earth's star and striped crest stitched with a golden thread that read, "We remember." Keen stood before them, wearing a clean uniform. The scars and bruises from battle were still fresh. But she stood tall. She spoke simply. We came not for victory, but because someone asked us to. We came because we could not forget. She looked around. We fought so that no voice is ever lost in the dark again. That night, Keen returned to the ESS Gallant. The ship orbited quietly, its lights dimmed to standby mode. It had survived the war. Just like Novara, just like her. She walked to the viewing deck, where the stars stretched wide across the black. Beside her, a young girl stood, one of the rescued children. Do you think they're all gone? The girl asked. The bad ones? Keen looked at her. Some, but not all. The girl looked worried. Will they come back? Keen put a hand on her shoulder. If they do, we'll be here. Earth will be here. The girl nodded. They stood together for a while, watching the stars. On the far side of the galaxy, messages spread through alien networks. Earth broke its silence. The humans fight for their own. They don't forget. Some watched with fear, others with respect. All knew this humanity had returned. Back in her private quarters, Keen sat at her desk. She opened the original distress signal from Novara one last time. Please, don't forget us. She listened in silence. Then she whispered, we didn't. She saved the file under a new name. The voice that woke a world. Outside the Gallant, the Earth fleet drifted across the stars, not as conquerors, but as a promise.